Welcome back to a little bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I think this is 2 weeks in the running since we've done this together. It was 2 weeks ago Monday, so happy to be back together here, Sam. I mean, a big weekend. The Bucs had game one of the playoffs at Indy. Did not go the way that people wanted, especially the first half, very sloppy, and then hung in the second half, but it was just the big deficit that they got to. I mean, I don't really have a lot of numbers. Everything was just a little bit worse than Indy. Field goal percentage, Bucs shot 41%, where Pacers shot 52%. 3-point percentage, the Bucs shot just 24% from three, where Indy shot 38%. I want where you find hope in this team yet, and where you think that they really faltered in game one there.
AJ Green, when he started taking shots, was making shots. That was fantastic. Again, as I've said, this is on Doc Rivers. I think we have the pieces. We just got to put them together right. I'm sure by now we've all seen the fantastic Kyle Kuzma day that we all experienced.
No.
22 minutes with zero stats, throwing 2 fouls and over 2 from the free throw line just for good measure. You ever heard of the sunk cost fallacy?
I have not, but I'd like to be enlightened.
I have a direct quote from Google this morning. The
Okay.
sunk cost fallacy is the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they've invested heavily in it, even when it's clear that abandonment would be more beneficial.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with Kyle Kuzma. I get that we traded Chris Middleton for him. Stop playing him. It's not working. I never wanted to see him in the playoff, the big time playoff rotation. As soon as he came on the Bucs and he was playing active defense and looking good out there, I never wanted him in those clutch moments when a shot needed to be made. That's not who he is. He can milk you and be an athletic player during the regular season. When you need someone to hit a bucket in the corner, a corner 3 guy, put Taurean Prince out there. Prince took 1 3 all game. That number has to be a little bit higher. Kind of mad a little bit more how the game went in general. Our 5 starters plus Bobby plus KPJ combined for 1 3-pointer.
Yeah.
And it was Ryan Rollins. I just don't see that happening again. So that's like a silver lining. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in. I think there's a little bit of scheme wise. I think Doc has to put some pieces together and put different rotations out there, different lineups. I don't think that Kyle Kuzma plus Taurean Prince is working out. There's not enough movement. They're not making shots. It's just not working.
Neither made a single shot. Taurean Prince also a goose egg in 20 minutes.
2 goose eggs. And still, at the end of that, we kind of cut it to 8 at a certain point. We won the third quarter, 33-26. On a day that Tyrese Halliburton was 3 for 13 from the field and 0 for 7 from 3. You want to take advantage of those games. And I really want to see more Jericho Sims minutes. This isn't a matchup for Brook. This is matchup heck for the Bucs. They're fast, and we have to work hard for 2s. And I hate seeing this matchup. That being said, I still have full confidence in this Bucs team. I think we're 9 players deep. I'm confident in the Bucs team, not Doc Rivers. If we can roll out the right guys and play to their pace, throw Jericho Sims. You got a defensive big who can keep up with Miles Turner on your bench.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in the game. I would love to see that happen. And Dame's coming back. The series is just getting going. It's going to be a long series. You can't win in 6 if you don't drop 2.
That's true. That is very true. My big takeaway here, I thought Indy shot really well. I mean, they got their guys open, but when you have Miles Turner knocking down multiple from 3, then you're in trouble. You really are, especially when that team started to get hot, and they stayed hot over the course of that game. But I like that you brought up the Kuzma, really just getting some cardio and missing a couple of free throws, getting a couple of fouls called on him. Really, really tough performance, first playoff performance for Kyle Kuzma. But I do have a tweet from Sean Wright, NBA, at about 1 p.m. I don't know if you saw this yet, but he said, quote, "I'm hearing good news, Milwaukee fans," which, of course, it's all speculation, but that really makes me think that Dame is a possibility for tomorrow night. How much do you think that changes things?
Not as much as the optimism would suggest. This Bucs team to start the season, and this worries me right now. It really does. To start the season, we were 2-8. because the pieces were there, but they needed a little bit of time to mesh. It all looked a little bit ugly. Bobby just sat out 25 games. He's going to be getting 25 plus minutes. Dame just missed a month of action. Now he's going to be in. It feels like we're just signing up for another time when kind of coming off the offseason. And the whole team is in general. We were on an 8-game win streak, then we sat for a week before the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we saw this story happen at the beginning of the season where we're like, guys, what's going on? What's clicking? Now they have had some time playing together. They have had the full season, but coming off that rest, we were playing hot. Things were working really well. Damian Lillard is not an all-star defensive player, so he's gonna have some issues with Tyrese Halliburton's quickness. That being said, when the wheels are falling off on the Bucks team, and this is what we brought Damian Lillard in for, that Drew Holiday couldn't do, that the perfect version of Chris Middleton could do, he can level the ship. When your starting five can't hit a three, when your bench guys are missing, when Kuz is just doing cardio, that's what you have a Damian Lillard for. Go get us a bucket. Go on a 9-0 run by yourself. Give us some offense. Keep the ship level. Keep us close. Don't make this a blowout. Yeah. That's what Damian Lillard can do. He really raises the floor for the team. I think we could have won the series without him. I still think we can. I hope he's not rushing anything. That being said, I don't think we're getting blown out in our only other loss that's going to happen this series.
So you have Bucks in 6 all the way through first series. I do have Bucks. So they'll win in 6 games all the way through the finals. Okay. Now I know for betting purposes in the future. But I think Dame is just going to add a little bit of a spark. Of course, that veteran experience. And I mean, last year you really didn't get to see it, and especially with Giannis's absence. So I'm excited to see that in a playoff environment. Both of those guys out there on the floor. Both of those guys have done some special, memorable, historic things in a playoff environment. And now we get to see both of them play together for the first time, really. And that might be Tuesday. That might be Thursday. I'm hopeful. I mean, that Sean Wright tweet really makes me think that it's coming tomorrow, or at least in some capacity. Like maybe he's out there for 15 minutes when the Bucks get down by 12. Okay, let's throw Dame out there. Let's try to equalize this thing. So maybe he's available. I'm hopeful. I think it'll add a spark. I know before we were kind of almost alluding to the point where Giannis was kind of unlocked with Lillard's absence. But I think the playoffs is also a different environment where to have two of those guys out there on the floor, two of those guys that really in the last closing minutes of those games are someone who you fully trust, that is just beneficial in every sense, I believe. So I'm trying to be optimistic with you here. The whole Bucks in 6 thing, I could see it in round 1. Yeah, but I do think, and I'll use my little pun here, I think the Buck might stop there. But yes, they'll be playing at Indy. It's going to be an emotional series. We just saw game 1, and it was just sloppy from start to finish. So I don't think the team's going to play as bad as they played in that first game. We saw the floor there. That was as bad as I think that they're going to play this Indy team. So yeah, it's only up from here, and we'll see where she goes. Couple of Milwaukee Brewers debuts, a couple of baby Brewers this year. I think I was counting on my hand. I'm counting, I think, 4 Major League debuts on this Milwaukee Brewers roster. You have Vinny Capra. You now have Logan Henderson. You have Caleb Durbin. And I am forgetting one, Chad Patrick as another starting pitcher. But it's almost like a Brewers player generator here is what I'm thinking for the starting pitchers with, of course, Logan Henderson, Chad Patrick, Quinn Priester, where these guys are all tall, big. They got a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. They got a cutter. They got a sinker and a little bit of a curveball. But they work around the edges, and they've all worked well. And that's what we saw yesterday in Logan Henderson's Major League debut, a historic day for the Milwaukee Brewers. So they do get up to just 12-10 on the year, but Henderson going 6 innings pitched, just 3 hits allowed with 1 walk, gave up just the 1 run. That was a home run to Seth Brown, but struck out 9. The Brewers have been saved so far this season by the guys that you would not have expected to this point. But as my Zoom name says here, the pitching lab goes Burr.
You look at the 4 guys. I mean, all 5 guys right now in our 5 are kind of killing it right now. It's between Peralta, who has under 2 ERAs. He's I think he's got a 1.91 ERA right now. And then you got Priester, Henderson, Quintana, and Patrick. These are 4 guys a month ago that were not suited to be on an MLB roster. A few of them didn't make the cut and then Quintana was 36 and needed a little bit of ramp up time. They're like, easy, old man. Let's work you into the process a little bit. And they are all crushing it right now. Priester, it's not a huge sample size. Priester after 2 games is 0.90 ERA.
Yeah.
Patrick after 5 games, a 2.1 ERA. And like I said, Peralta's at the 1.91. So starting pitching was the hole, but like you said, the Brewers are just pumping out these guys that can have a 2.0 ERA. The other one I have is Uribe has been crushing it too. Coming out of the bullpen. He's got a 0.93 in 10 games for pure. And I not to rain on the parade, I pulled Pyomps' ERA too.
Oh yeah.
17.5.
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's rough. I mean, I think he's had 3 blow-up relief appearances so far this year. That'll kill your ERA, and that's going to be a problem. I think that's going to be addressed in the next probably 3 weeks. They're going to give him more opportunities. I mean, you've seen really 2 solid full seasons from Yoel Pyomps, so he's got a little bit of a leash. But what we've seen to this point, he can't be thrown out there in a situation where the Brewers are winning or if they're close. And he's not really an innings eater either, where he's going to go 2 or 3 innings. So at this point, Yoel Pyomps is definitely negative value, where he's someone you're just holding on to that roster spot and you don't want to use one of his player options. We've seen him pitch at a high level at the major league level, but yeah, 17 for the ERA right now. Hasn't really been able to catch a break. Trevor McGill, he's at a 4.76 ERA. He had a rough appearance. That would have been the Arizona series, that meat game in the middle of the sandwich there, where it was Pyomps came in, couldn't get anybody out, and then McGill came in, and the only out he got was the walk-off sac fly that he gave up. 3 walks from McGill. But aside from that, I do have trust in Trevor McGill. I think he's a guy. I love what Abner Uribe has done. I have seen him. You know how energetic he is. You know how emotional he is. And that was the reason he had to sit the first 4 games of this season, was because he just whacked Jose Siri at first base last year when they played Tampa Bay, and then was later injured, and you can't serve those suspensions in the minors. So Uribe was on the bench as a black hole. But since he's been out there and this point has been brought up with the Brewers broadcast, you can see him out there and just take a breath and to take a little bit of time in between each pitch to just sit, collect yourself, and then go right back at him. And then you'll see the emotions and the antics come out every single time that he walks back towards the dugout after he strikes someone out or whatever it may be. But I love this guy. He's electric. I also like what Nick Mears has done. I think I've found a lot of trust in him so far. I think Jared Koenig is there. I think Brian Hudson is there. These guys are starting to perform the way that we were expecting. And this team is only going to get more complete. You have Tobias Myers coming back this week. I think you have Brandon Woodruff and Nestor Cortez knocking on the door. And then that bullpen is only going to get deeper. You're not going to see Chad Patrick in the rotation. I don't think you're going to see Logan Henderson in the rotation. I don't think you see Quinn Priester. But I don't know at this point if you can send any of those guys back to AAA. You're just adding more options to your bullpen. And Aaron Ashby, he's starting to ramp up. He's going to get in a bullpen. There are so many arms here, which is a great problem to have. And of course, we know Milwaukee, they lack a lot of top-end talent. You have Freddie Peralta, who has pitched really well this year so far. But other than that, you don't have another guy that you're going to count as an ace. You have your gritty veterans like Jose Quintana, who I love. I love that they went out and got him. He's been a Brewer killer his whole career. He's someone who I trust pitching in October. He is the old, wiry veteran where even if he walks 3 guys in the first inning like he did in his last appearance, he can find a way to collect himself and compose himself and still get through 5 innings and give up just 1 run. He's not some guy who's just going to let things fall apart at the seams. You're always going to get the best on a bad day from Jose Quintana and guys like that. And now Tobias Myers coming back. I'm very hopeful for where this rotation stands as a whole. Other than Yoel Pyomps, where do you see problems coming to rise?
Trusting it. I mean, yeah. I love that these guys are having an awesome start to the season. Going the long haul once scouting reports come out and all that, seeing these guys perform in September, October is the next level for these Brewers. Because when you get into the playoffs, it's that first round's the best out of three.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you have 8 starting pitchers that are all pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the depth kind of goes out the door when you got 2 games to win a playoff series. So the depth is going to carry us. Hopefully we get a good seed. I think this Brewers team is fantastic. They're making teams pay for mistakes offensively, and the pitching is holding them together defensively. So I hope one of these guys steps up and becomes someone that's absolutely electric and consistent. And that might be Chad Patrick, to be honest with you. Henderson looks
Yeah.
really, really good too. So
Mhm.
so we'll see where these kids go. But I think relying on the depth all season long,
Mhm.
gonna have to see it to believe it. But the offense is doing its dang job too. Like
Yeah.
especially after yesterday. 6 stolen bases in the first inning. I think is that an MLB record?
It's a franchise record, I know, 6 in the inning. And then it was also a franchise record that was set 9 stolen bases, which is actually broken by Caleb Durbin, who we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Although he had a
Yeah.
pretty solid debut as well, went 2 for 4 in his MLB debut, made a nice catch just along the dugout, had to reach into the dugout over the railing. And yeah,
He
this
beat
team
out a
putting up
slow roller
14
to third.
runs.
I think my favorite play from Durbin so far is that slow roller to third that he beat out. You just love to see him getting out of the box on that, getting to first on what would be out on 99% of professional baseball players.
He adds to that athleticism. He is that mold of a Pat Murphy guy that his floor is high just because of how athletic he is. If he gets on first base, you're looking at him to take second base. He can play multiple positions. He's going to give you a good at bat. The power isn't necessarily going to be there for Caleb Durbin, but at this point, you can't get much worse than what you got out of Vinny Capper and Oliver Dunn. We'll see where things go there. I'm hopeful for the kid. I mean, they must have seen something in him when they traded away Devin Williams, and he was the big piece of that return. So you're going to be hopeful. I don't see him being an all-star caliber player. I see Milwaukee possibly going and trying to add later on this year. We'll see how far Durbin can take this train. I don't think Vinny Capra is going to get a lot of trust for the rest of the season. So right now, it lies on the shoulders of Caleb Durbin, that third base hole that we have talked over and over and over again. And if he can't do it, then he starts to look at options outside of the organization. Because I can tell you right now, it's probably not going to be Andrew Monasterio sitting at AAA. Although he did have 2
Hope
home runs
not.
yesterday. But yeah, and
Seen too
so
much film of Monasterio.
yeah, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of the guy. He's a really good AAA player. I like him as a bench
Yeah.
guy, just not someone who you want to trust every single day. And I do want to mention a little bit about your depth too. You're not going to have to rely on these guys, and hopefully not for long, because we haven't even brought up Aaron Savali, which is another guy that's going to be coming back into this rotation as well. It's just, I love to see this depth because we know in today's day and age of Major League Baseball, guys get hurt at such a higher rate than we've seen in any other prior years. And you saw it this year where Freddie Peralta was the last man standing just, I think, 9 days into the Major League season, and you had one real starting pitcher, so they had to scramble, but they found a bunch of guys that could hold down the fort. And you love to see that they are at least capable of doing that. No, I'm not trusting those guys in October. I don't think they want to be trusted in October. Maybe they do. I mean, I wouldn't have said the same thing about Tobias Myers, but then he shoved against the Mets in game 2. Like, maybe. We'll see where these guys go, but that there is electricity, and I like the way that these guys have all shown that they carried themselves. They seem like mature ball players that aren't going to let the moment get too big for them. Like the lights aren't going to be too bright for these guys. I think they got a good head on their shoulders, and this is all 3 of them with Henderson, Patrick, and Priester. So there are a bunch of guys that Chris Hook, he's already got his hands on. He's already starting to mold, and you love that there's a little bit of control with all 3 of those guys, especially Priester, for the next 6 possible years as a Milwaukee Brewer. I know you were saying we can't trust it too much, but I do have another question for you more on the offensive end here, as we've seen 2 of our young Brewers really, I think, overexcel to this point. Sal Frelick is hitting 342, and Bryce Terang is hitting 322, and he leads the league in runs scored with 26. How much of this offensive prowess do you believe so far for these 2 players who had below average offensive seasons last year?
I'm in on them. I really am. We saw Sal put in the work over the offseason. They're young. They got their cuts. They've taken a little time in the league. I'm all in on Sal Frelick. I'm all in on Bryce Turang. Turang showing a little bit more pop than
Oh
really
yeah.
we thought. I mean, both of them are showing a little more pop than we thought that they had. So, and we know the defense is going to be good with these guys, but like you said, offensively, 340 through 322 is this. That's great numbers, and it's not the first week of the season anymore. These guys are here to hit. Yelly's numbers will come up. I think he's hitting
Yep.
just 203 right now,
Hmm.
and Contreras will be there, and Churio will be there, and we can have five guys hitting over 270 this year. That's a complete possibility.
It could. And Reese Hoskins has been hot as a rocket the last week as well. He's got his average up to 260 after being completely absent for the first week and a half. So that this lineup is kind of coming to where we saw it, and we're seeing the hole right where we expected at third base. And Joey Ortiz at shortstop, I believe he's hitting 182. I had a little bit of a concern about him. How worried are you about Joey Ortiz as the main guy through 162 games at shortstop?
Probably more worried defensively than offensively because I do have that much trust in the top five of our order, and I think the Brewers are a team that'll make you pay for your mistakes. I think there's a lot of times where we find ourselves with a runner on second and no outs, and then we strike out three times or pop out a couple times and leave
Mhm.
runners on. But we're really good at getting in those positions, So I'm not too worried about having the 7, 8, 9 guys hitting around 200 because I think that they can get on base, and when they do, it's going to be a problem. They don't need to be the guys creating offense for this system to work. They just got to get on base every once in a while, put a little pressure on, and get knocked around. But the combination between Durbin and Ortiz, short to third, that's a whole. I mean, you want that on lockdown. You don't
Yeah.
want a couple maybes there. You don't want a couple good defensive. You really want someone solid playing that short and the hot corner over there. So I'm a little more worried about Ortiz defensively than offensively.
Yeah, and I think from what we've seen so far from him at short, he's a little bit above average. He's not quite what Bryce Turang is at second base, but then again, we don't see that ever. But Durbin at third base, there have been a couple of errors in AAA. Even just last week, I believe he had one that caught up to him. So I have a couple of concerns over there, and we'll see how everything plays out. But you do have two offensive holes to this point right now. I do think Joey Ortiz is a major league hitter, and I think that he's going to hit better. I just don't think it's going to be to the extent of what we saw in the first half of last year where he was hitting 290. I don't think that's Joey Ortiz. I think he's more of 230 or 240, and he'll give you solid defense, and he'll steal some bases. And really, I'm okay with that if those top six in the order can hit like we think they can, because I think that core right there is really solid, and I think they can carry the offense, which right now to this point, Milwaukee is fifth in Major League Baseball in total runs scored. So that the offense is playing right there.
Sweet.
You just can't let the pitching blow up. I don't know if you've seen any of those numbers, but the record has been crazy. I think they are averaging just one run allowed on games that they win. But then I think games that they lose, it's over 8 runs allowed. So it's either really great or really bad on the starting pitching front. And I think the really bad numbers are going to start to really dwindle once those guys start coming back into this rotation. So there's a lot to be excited about. A lot to be excited about in the state of Wisconsin. Green Bay hosting the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. I don't have a lot of specific questions here because, in all honesty, we could talk about 4 or 5 guys, and I still wouldn't be able to tell you if Brian Gutekunst is even looking at those guys. So we'll talk more about the draft as kind of like an overall. What does the first round of the NFL draft usually look like for you personally? Like what are your emotions? What are you looking for? Are you hopeful about certain guys? Do you try to make a lot of predictions, or what does the night kind of look like for you? As Sam is
Right now,
he's in and
not
he's
sure
out.
what you said.
What does
I hear
NFL
you.
draft night look like for you personally? Like, do you
I'll be
try to
watching.
sit there and make predictions, or what do you like to do?
I love the show of it, man. I think it's just a really awesome night, dude. You see 32 kids and families' lives changed, and that's what it shows. That I love the show of it. I love that they put it on. I love that it's going to be in Green Bay, and this year specifically, I think it's going to be a freaking fire sale on trades. There's never been a time in NFL history when all 32 teams have their first round picks. And I think they all have a little guy they want. And I think we're going to see a ton of trades, like 6 or 7 first round trades this year as things start to shake up, as the defensive backs start flying, or the tackles start flying off the board, and just everybody having their first round pick. It feels like the calm before the storm for me. So I'm looking for a couple big names to get moved. Trey Hendrickson isn't signed. TJ Watt wants to boogie. I mean, we know about Jair. So, and first round picks have a really high ticket. I think this year it's gonna be electric, and it's in Green Bay. I got a lot of my DJ friends that are gonna be throwing parties out there, so shout out to them. Yeah, no, I love draft night, man. It's so cool. Just a great night to get a little ticked off at the Packers and how they do things too.
Yeah, and in all recency, I'd say ever since, I mean, Rashawn Gary ended up being a solid first-round pick, but right away it was kind of like, did we need to do that? But in the end, kind of came out in the wash all right. But yeah, the first-round pick, first-round night for Green Bay fans hasn't been spectacular, really, since Jair Alexander was selected, and now he might be on his way out. For me personally, I think draft night is probably the biggest night in NFL. Over the course of the entire season. I think it's bigger than a Super Bowl, because I think that NFL franchises can win multiple Super Bowls on one night if they really nail a pick. And you saw that with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the Packers saved their franchise when they went out and selected Aaron Rodgers. You see the biggest turning points of franchises usually in that first round of draft night, or maybe over the course of the whole weekend. But you don't really have the draft impact your franchise quite like you do in the NFL. And I think that's what's unique about it. That's what's special about it. In the NBA, you can have a solid franchise without drafting a real NBA player for 10 years, which is what we've seen with the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is their last real draft pick that actually hit and contributed to the NBA team. And you could say Dante DiVincenzo, but I don't think he added that many wins. But to that point, and also for Major League Baseball, it's all prospects, it's all trading, it's developing. But in the NFL, you can go out and draft the Jaden Daniels and go all the way to the NFC Championship game and be right on the doorstep of going to a Super Bowl. So I think that, just as a pure NFL fan, makes it that cool. And us living here in Wisconsin, I'm excited to see how Green Bay can handle it. I know a lot of people are worried. I know traffic is going to be absolutely crazy, but I'm excited to hear how Green Bay handles it. And I think that could be a good thing for that entire market. Absolutely. All the money that's going to be pouring into there, it's just good. Everything about this weekend, I'm hoping, can be good. And we'll see what Gutekunst does. I'm not making any predictions, so I apologize for that. We'll go and analyze. Maybe if we come back on Friday, we can look at that first-round pick and we can tell you all about them. But I couldn't give you any guess as to where Green Bay is going in that first round. I don't even know if they pick. In all honesty.
We hope for defense. Yeah. Wouldn't be shocked at anything. I'd be stoked about a little trade. You know, I want to see us be actionable. I don't think that, if there's not a big guy there, I'd love to see us, make a big time move. I do think we're in a win now window, and having a first round pick can make you win now.
Yeah, Gutekunst just isn't a win now draft kind of guy, and he hasn't been in the past. So we'll see if anything changes up. We can transition here into the cheese grater. My first question for you, Sam, is Game 2 do or die for the Milwaukee Bucks? No.
Got to lose 2 to win in 6, Cody.
You see this team winning 4 in a row against Indy?
Yes.
Okay.
If they can't, if they lose 2 in Indy, this Bucks team needs a spark and they can get hot. We've seen them go on win streaks and we've seen them start slow. I think so. If I were a betting man, I bet Doc rolls out the same crappy starting 5 that he did. I bet they have the same issues, and then he makes some adjustments. I don't think he's going to make a ton of adjustments going into Game 2, which unfortunately, is not ideal. But listening to some of his comments post game, I think he's going to try to roll out the same starting 5. I don't think it's going to work. I still think we can win, but I think a lot of changes are coming after that starting 5 that he tries again doesn't work again. Okay. So I think there's changes coming. I do see the Bucks winning this. They say in the NBA a lot, a playoff series doesn't start until the home team loses 1. So if we drop 2 in Indiana, We can win 2 in Milwaukee. We got a series.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cody, you're so ahead of me. I'm just going to knock out this first cheese grater question because I have it written down. Bryce Turang is leading the MLB in a major offensive stat. What is it?
See, I apologize. I think so. My morning routine, especially during baseball season, I look at the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers baseball reference page, and I know where everybody ranks in MLB categories. I know what they're hitting to an extent. Like I could tell you pretty much anybody's batting average on the roster within .2. Well, .02. So if he was hitting 320, I could say he's hitting 340, and I'd count that. But
Sure.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I apologize, kind of spoiled it a little bit for you.
Crushed it.
Yeah, so here's one for you, right back. Kind of goes in what we talked about for the NFL drafts. Are you excited or are you worried for this first round for Green Bay?
I'm excited. Yeah, always going to be an optimist. Gutekunst has given me no reason to trust that his first round pick is going to be fantastic. But as a Wisconsin sports fan, I'm going in all optimism. I think we can make a trade. I think if we throw Jair and our what are we 22, 23, we can move up and get a dog at 11 or something like that. Or we can go get a veteran. I think it would be unfortunate for the fans that show up in Green Bay if we don't get a selection.
Yeah.
But I think they'd also, those are fans of the team. If we make a serious win now move, and we go get a big time player, then I'm all about it. So I'll stay optimistic until we draft a guard that's a project with knee issues.
Yeah.
And then I won't be optimistic anymore. After any of the first games in the NBA playoffs, are you convinced on any of the outcomes? Outside of the Oklahoma City Memphis 50-point blowout, of course.
Can you? I apologize. Can you go through some of the outcomes?
Yeah, so the Timberwolves took down the Lakers pretty convincingly. Okay. The Warriors took down the Rockets. That's a 7-2 matchup. That's kind of one that really sparked me. The Nuggets took overtime to take down the Clippers. Yeah. Boston took care of Orlando. It was close for a little bit, then Boston just kind of ran away with it. You know where I stand on Boston. They're a wagon.
Yep. And I think I agree with you on. I think Boston's the best overall team in the NBA. I'm going to say not sold on Minnesota and LA because I think LA could do it. You have 2 surefire first ballot Hall of Famers. And yeah. I mean, I'm going to root for Minnesota. Absolutely. That's what I want to see. But I think LA's too good for that. I really think so. And you brought up Austin Reeves, where like if he wasn't playing with Luka and LeBron, like his numbers might be absolutely ridiculous. He's that good of a player too. I think LA's deep. I see them winning that series, so I'm not sold on that. Golden State, I have them. I don't know. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA since Jimmy Butler came to town. He's one of those playoff grinders as well. And Steph Curry, I don't think the man's lost a step in 3 years. I think he's right there. I think that team can be just as good. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on the NBA. I'm worried when I watch these games to kind of compare that to how I feel about Milwaukee. I just inside there's just not a lot of hope and a lot of excitement. Like I'm going to be hurt more by this playoff outcome than I could be excited, I think is how I'm going to say it. Because every
Cody, believe Bucks and 6.
I can believe it. But every year goes by, that Giannis window starts to close. So there's,
oh my gosh,
I just worry when things move on because I do understand that we are watching one of the best to ever do it, and every year that they don't get one, that's another year less that he has an opportunity. And I know that he's a guy that he deserves 3 or 4 rings when it's all said and done. And it was kind of the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Like every year, it's like, oh yeah, they'll be back next year. They'll be back next year. They'll be back next year. Next thing you know, the guy's 40 years old, still has just 1 ring on his finger, and now I'm tied with him. So
we are about to see Giannis and Dame play healthy together in a playoff game for the first time. I'm so excited, Cody.
Yeah,
hey, we talked about all of our starting pitching depth. Who's going to have the most success when they get moved to the bullpen? Who's going to get moved
to the bullpen? So we just saw Logan Henderson. I think he's got the best overall stuff right now. I'm absolutely sold on Hendrickson. He had 15 strikeouts per 9 innings in his first couple of starts in AAA this year. The dude's electric, and his stuff is going to play, I think, a little bit better in the big leagues than in AAA. Because in AAA, that zone is really tight, where they might give you an inch or two off the edge, which we saw a couple of those strikeouts against Oakland on Sunday. I think he's a guy. I think he's a grinder. I think Craig Yoho comes up, and I think he is also going to be just nails. I think that they'll wait till Payamps goes and blows another one or two, but they'll be right there. I think that's going to be enough for us today. So we'll be back Friday. We'll look over the Packers, what their first round pick is. We'll see how Sam's prophecy is coming true for the Bucs, and we'll talk about Milwaukee as they are in San Francisco to face Willie for the first time since he signed with the Giants. I'm Cody, that's Sam. We'll see you back on Friday for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.